These lifestyle projectors from Hisense and Valerian have been getting plenty of praise, but can they really stand up to the heavy hitters like Sony, Epson, and JVC, or is it just all marketing hype? Today we'll discuss the pros and cons of a lifestyle projector, but will these benefits outweigh the trade-offs? Let's dive in and find out. Over the past few weeks, I've been testing out the Valerian Vision Master Pro 2 as well as the Hisense C2 Ultra here in my dedicated theater room. Now, in my theater room, I run a JVC NZ800 projector. This is a standard long throw projector. These are what we consider lifestyle projectors. However, they can be used in a dedicated room like this. So what is the difference between a lifestyle projector and a standard long throw projector like I've got in my theater room, like your Sonys, your JVCs, your Epson projectors? And so that's what I want to cover in today's video. So the first thing I want to talk about, of course, is portability and size. As you can see, these are really tiny units. Now they weigh a good amount because this is made out of aluminum and this is pretty well built as well. This has got a plastic case on the outside, but both of these are pretty hefty for small units. Now both of these do have the ability to be permanently mounted. You don't have to take these anywhere. You don't have to take them outside. You may want to purchase this for your living room setup or for a bedroom setup or a garage setup or a dedicated theater room like this. And so you can utilize it for that. But one thing that's really nice is you're not limited to just that. Here's a prime example. If a friend of mine said, hey, Michael, we're going to be throwing a party at my house. Maybe it's a Super Bowl party. You got projectors, right? Could you bring your projector over and I've got a big wall in my garage. We can shoot it up on there and I'll drape a curtain over the front or maybe a big bed sheet. And I just think it'd be cool to be outside, or maybe it's out in the backyard in an outdoor living area by the pool. I'm not carrying my JVC NZ800 out there. Absolutely no way. But I would carry one of these because it comes with a carrying case. It's small, it's portable, it's ridiculously easy to set up. I can set these up in just a few minutes, where that one back there is going to take me quite a bit more time, especially in just moving it and getting it set up. And so if you're looking to have a projector that has the ability to be portable, the ability to have different applications, this might be a good fit. The other thing that I love about these is it gives you the flexibility of having some internal streaming services. And so these have Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus, YouTube. So with both of these units, you don't have to have an external video source like Kaleidescape or a 4K player or a Blu-ray player or an Amazon Fire Stick plugged into the back or Roku. These have that built in natively, and so you literally plug them in, turn them on, and you've got access to everything as long as you can connect Wi-Fi to your network. And so that's a super handy feature in and of itself. Another big benefit is the form factor. Again, these are super tiny. You can see my hand here. These are small units, so they don't take up much space in your room. So if you were to put this on a coffee table, like in your living room, and put up a projection screen, maybe you want to set this up just temporarily in the bedroom. Again, outside by the pool, there's a lot of applications to where these don't take up that much space versus, my projector, the NZ800, is probably every bit of 2, almost 3 times the size of these and just takes up a lot more space. And one of the best parts about a lifestyle projector is its value. Let's think about it. $2,500, $3,000. My projector is about $16,000. Now, you might be saying, Michael, why in the world would I spend $16,000 when I can just get a $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 projector and get a great image? These do produce amazing image. Don't get me wrong, but I do see there are different applications for this versus a standalone projector. So here are some of the trade-offs with the lifestyle projectors based on my experience in my room. So in using both of these projectors in my theater room, one thing I noticed is that the color accuracy, although we had more color volume, okay, these have like 110 BT 2020, so 110% of BT 2020. that's a lot of volume. That's a ton of color. Sometimes the image seems a bit oversaturated. Now the good thing is you've got a lot of flexibility in the menu to be able to calibrate these and dial these in. I'm not a professional calibrator by any means. I was just doing some basic settings using some of the presets that they have built in and using the different picture modes and color modes. But sometimes like the grass would seem almost neon green. It's not really as natural. Versus when I look at my JVC, you know, of course I've had it professionally calibrated. Grass looks very natural. It looks like what we see in our normal, you know, if I were to walk out in my backyard, versus these just look more, again, they just look more saturated. It almost looks slightly unnatural in certain colors. Reds are almost too vibrant. You're like, man, I don't know if I've ever seen a flower that vibrant. It looks really cool and the colors really pop. But again, I think there's some color accuracy there. Now, with these, can you calibrate these and dial them in? And if you really know what you're doing and you've got some, you know, some equipment that can really see what you're getting and how to dial those colors in, absolutely. And so again, I'm not a professional calibrator. This is just a regular dude playing with some really awesome toys here, but still a beautiful image. I had a friend of mine come over yesterday. He was curious to see them. I had the Hisense set up and he was like, dude, I think that looks better than my ultra short throw projector. And I said, I don't know, man, these are really, really great images. And so we looked at some different 4K content, some HDR content. The brightness level on these are phenomenal, 3,000 lumens. I mean, that's huge brightness, even when you're outdoors, even if there's a good amount of ambient light, you can still get a decent decent image. However, the darker you can get the room, of course, the better these are going to perform. So I do see the application of these, but there are some shortfalls. Another shortfall is these two models, the C2 and the Valerian Pro 2, they do not have lens shift. And what lens shift is the ability to place a projector in a fixed location like here, and then internally move the lens left and right, or maybe up and down to be able to align it to your screen. So with these, you're going to have to position these exactly where you need that, or position it here and then move your screen to get it to line up. So that's a limitation. Again, you may not need that feature. In my room, I absolutely need that feature. Another thing that goes along with that is in my theater room, I've got a 2.35:1 aspect ratio. What that means is this is much wider than your standard 16:9 screen. And because of that, when I play a movie that is 16:9, it doesn't fill my screen all the way left and right. Now, granted, you're probably not going to buy a 2.35:1 screen for these. I would recommend a 16:9 screen. But I'm just saying, you don't really have the flexibility of going with a 2.35:1 aspect ratio. And here's the biggest reason. Yes, you could position this to fill this entire screen on a 2.35:1. The problem comes is all of the menus, the main hub that has Netflix and Hulu and all that is going to be in 16:9. So you're going to have part of that image kind of spilling above your screen and below your screen if you had a 2.35:1 screen. What the long throw projectors like your JVC, like your Epson, they have features called lens memory. What that allows you to do is to zoom in or out, to position the image up and down or left and right, and then you can focus and you can save that as a preset. It's called lens memory. So in my JVC, I can have up to, I think, 10 different presets. So I could have one for 4:3. I could have one for 16:9. I could have one for 2.35:1. I could have one for 2.40:1. So as you can see, you've got a lot of flexibility with something like a JVC projector. You're not going to have that same flexibility with these lifestyle projectors. Now with the Max, this is the next one they're working on. It will have vertical lens shift, but you won't have horizontal lens shift. So again, they're adding some features, adding some functionality, adding some cost, but you're still not getting the flexibility that you do with a long throw projector. Another thing that might be of interest to somebody that, especially that has a dedicated theater room, is you don't have the ability to put an anamorphic lens on these. So in a theater room like this, when you're switching between 16:9 and 2.35 to 1, the native aspect ratio of the projector is 16:9. So to fill my screen, I'm essentially zooming in so that those gray bars on a scope image are above my screen and below my screen. So we're actually losing resolution. That gray area isn't producing any content, and so I'm not getting the full, pixels of a native 4K, if that makes sense. So with these, you don't have that ability. Adding a anamorphic lens to that would allow me to take advantage of the full sensor. It takes advantage of all of those pixels, and I can fill that screen with a 2.35 to 1 or maybe a 2.40 to 1. Again, you just don't have that flexibility here. But somebody that's looking at a lifestyle projector, I don't think that is the direction they're going. They're looking for something that is simple, easy to use, possibly portable if you need that, a lot of flexibility, good image quality, like actually really stinking good image quality. The one area that these struggle in compared to, say for instance, my JVC is black levels. Although these have enhanced black levels and the Hisense has their own version of that, I still don't get near the deep, rich blacks that we get with a JVC. JVC to me is the king of blacks when it comes to projectors until you get up into something like a Christie, but then you're talking $80,000, sometimes up to $450,000, and that certainly does not fit my budget. So if black levels are really important to you, I don't believe that these are going to match anywhere close to what, say, a JVC can do. But overall, I am extremely grateful that I finally reached out to these brands and said, hey, I saw this at CES this year. I was incredibly impressed by what I saw in the Valerian. Hisense reached out and said, hey, we've got a C2. We'd love to send you to check that out. And I said, you know what? I want to get these in hand. I'm curious now. And I'm so glad that I did because these are super cool, to be honest with you. Again, they don't do everything that a big, long throw projector is going to do. But if you don't need the features that I mentioned for, like a JVC, a Sony, an Epson, absolutely, you should consider one of these for sure. Now, some of the differences I've noted in these two, the Hisense has a full backlit remote. Almost every button, I think, except for the buttons at the very bottom, which have like Netflix and Disney Plus, those don't light up. But all your key buttons, they all light up. The Valerian, man, I was really hoping that they had a full backlit remote. Even the main navigation, up, down, left, and right, they're not backlit. Now, granted, you can, in the dark, you can fumble around and figure out where those are. But because it's a flat square, it makes it more difficult to find that. And sometimes I found I was hitting buttons that I shouldn't be hitting, and I'd back out of a menu by mistake or something of that nature. So I like the remote better on this one than on the Valerian. I love the style of the Valerian though. This is just super cool, this aluminum chassis. However, if you're touching this thing, it's going to get fingerprinted up much more than this. This plastic, I can touch it. I don't see any fingerprints. But man, as soon as I touch that right there, I got to get out the wipe and clean that off. But I like the style of this one better. This Hisense comes with a stand. And so you can rotate this one left and right. You can rotate it up and down just by doing that. The Valerian on the bottom, it does have a kind of like a little kickstand to lift it up. So that's built into it. And then it also has some adjustable feet in the back. So there is some adjustment there for vertical, but this one is just, like I said, it's a lot more simple. You can do like that. And because both of these have automatic keystone, so let's say, for instance, you got this in the backyard and you need to angle it up a little bit higher. Maybe it's on the floor and you need to angle it up a little bit higher. You just do like that and it goes, okay, that's wonky. Give me a few seconds, boom, and it locks it into place, and it's like, okay, that's it. Again, just makes these really, really simple. to set up. Now, is that the ideal situation? No. But again, for that application, I don't think you're worried about a perfect image. You just want to get a big screen, a big image, maybe outside, it could be inside. You can take this to your church, throw it up on a big white wall, have movie night at your church, built-in amplification, and actually pretty good amplification on the speaker side of it. Not bad, but you could always run a system to it, you know, a Bluetooth system or maybe even a PA system to really crank up some music or you know, sound for it to improve that. So one of the other big differences between a lifestyle projector and a long throw projector is its throw distance. So my projector is mounted right back here, about 16.5 feet away from the screen. So you can see this is way back here in the room. What we found with the Valerian as well as the Hisense is we could actually mount those projectors somewhere about right here. So that might have been 4 feet difference, 4 feet closer to the screen to be able to fill up a 150-inch diagonal. So if you're trying to accommodate a very large image and you don't have that throw distance, these might be a better fit as well. It really just comes down to use case scenario. What do you need the projector for? What are your goals? Are you looking for just a great image, built-in features like the streaming, and you just want a good experience? These are great options, and they definitely, $2,500 versus $3,000 is a whole lot easier attainable than a $5,000, an $8,000, a $10,000, $15,000 or up, you know, dedicated projector like or a long throw projector. So, man, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this. Number one, do you own one of these? I know a lot of you guys have purchased some of these and you've commented on my previous videos. Share with us your thoughts on these. If you own them, what are your thoughts? What do you like? What do you don't like? Where do you see these fitting in the marketplace, in a home theater space, in the home theater community? Are there some things that I didn't think about in this video? I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Well, guys, I'll have a link to the Hisense C2 Ultra down in the description below, as well as the Valerian Vision Master Pro 2 projectors. Hope you guys have an incredible week. God bless, and I'll catch you in the next video.